comply. Lead the way.
With Fires of Liberation, the Ace Combat series practically roars into the current console generation, expanding its scope to include fantastic online play and finding the perfect balance between a speedy frame rate and quality graphics. This is a rewarding game. Ramps up the challenge throughout the course of the campaign, and it finishes on a thrilling high note. It doesn't always sustain that momentum, and you may find the early missions a little bit tedious, but if you stick with it, it pays off in grand fashion. There's a fairly complex web of personal stories taking place between your single-player missions. The breathtaking cutscenes follow a heartbroken mother, a stoic enemy pilot, and a bunch of other characters on their journeys of discovery and redemption. The story doesn't feel all that connected to the gameplay because the scenes don't directly relate to what you're doing in the sky. The bad lip syncing doesn't help things, nor does some of the bland delivery from the voice actors, but it does give you a sense of the stakes at hand better than probably a more sweeping narrative would. In contrast to all that, the battles are fast and furious, and even if you're a novice to this kind of thing, it won't take you long to light up the skies with your prowess. This isn't a realistic flight sim. You won't be forced to take off and land on your own if you don't want to. So instead, you can simply enjoy the fluid flight model, which toes the line really well between realism and pure arcade fun. If you're intimidated by flying games, there is a novice control option, but really you should use the default option since it's not only easy to use, but it gives you more control over your aircraft. There's a good number of real aircraft to choose from, though there aren't as many as in previous installments. But the differences between them are subtle and they can have profound effects in the battle zone. The missions themselves are quite exciting, though you may not get that impression from the first 5 or 6 of them since the difficulty level slowly rises for the first few hours. In fact, until you reach the later stages of the game, crashing is probably the most serious threat.
Garuda 1 down.
There's a bunch of radio chatter in all of this, and it does a really good job of setting just the right tone. The radio is constantly abuzz with status updates, shouts of encouragement, warnings of missiles, and even some humorous asides. Most of the lines are delivered with the kind of excitement and urgency you'd expect from men fighting for the future of their country, though some of the dialogue is flat and uninspiring. It's all accompanied by a rousing symphonic score that would be perfectly at home in a stirring war epic, and it sets the tone perfectly. The great sound design is accompanied by fantastic visual effects. You'll play in a variety of environments, above cities and mountains, through canyons, above the sea. They all look fantastic, at least from a distance. Of particular note is the unbelievable draw distance, which displays objects off in the distance in more detail than you might expect. The one drab note is the ground texture maps, which look fine from afar, but are blurry and a little unsightly if you get too close. But you'll rarely take the time to notice since you're constantly in motion. Aside from online play, Ace Combat 6 doesn't break any real new ground for the series, but it does make up for it by providing the most immersive experience yet in arcade flight combat sim. It's got smooth, gorgeous visuals and polished gameplay, so it should satisfy series veterans while still being streamlined enough for anyone to pick up and play. Whether you're one of those veterans or new to it, you're not going to be disappointed.